Fahima. I'm a graduate dietetic student, and I'm excited to present to you the topic of this Nutrition of Food with Context webinar, tomatoes. The menu for this presentation will start out by describing the food, the wide variety, and its origin. Then we'll take a look at the production of the plants, the market, and its environmental impact. We'll go through the sustainability of the food and how we can contribute to it. Then we'll examine the nutritional value and its effect on the body and health. And lastly, we'll go through the wide use of tomatoes in the kitchen and some recipe ideas. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to identify one environmental impact of tomatoes production, identify at least two ways of making tomatoes more sustainable, and explain the role of antioxidants in the body, and name one example found in tomatoes. So let's begin with a short question. Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? We hear that often, and the answer is actually lies on the definition of what is a fruit. So scientifically speaking, tomatoes are fruits. By definition, fruits are produced from flowers, have seeds, helps with the plant's reproduction process. And tomatoes are actually edible berries of the plant called Solanum lycopersicum, also known as tomato plant. But the reason why we tend to consider them as vegetables is because of their common culinary applications. In fact, in many cultures, vegetables tend to be served as part of the main dish or side, whereas fruits are used in desserts. And unlike other fruits, tomatoes are not as sweet and have a more savory taste that is desirable in dishes or paired alongside with other vegetables. There is a wide variety of tomatoes that come in all sizes, shapes, and colors. We have heirloom tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, round tomatoes, just to name a few. Now, where do tomatoes come from? The first evidence of domestication goes back to the Aztecs from the historical region of Mesoamerica, now known as Southern America. It was introduced to Europe at the time of the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. And the English word tomato comes from the Spanish word tomate, which was derived from the Aztec language. And tomatoes were initially sold and grown for its beauty rather than for eating. Many knew how to grow them, but it took a while before people knew how to cook the food. And in fact, Europeans at first were suspicious of the fruit because the plant belongs to the family of nightshade, which makes it a relative of the known deadly plant belladonna. But with time, farmers began to investigate the use of tomatoes, and the rest is history. Now tomatoes have become almost a staple food item in the kitchen around the world. So tomatoes are warm season crop. They thrive well under a temperature between 10 to 30 degrees Celsius. In Canada, because of the coolness and shortness of the summer season, the outdoor production is limited. They are first seeded in greenhouses, then they can be transplanted to the fields when there's no danger of frost. In 2020, fresh market tomatoes were the primary vegetable produced in greenhouses across Canada, with Ontario, British Columbia, and Quebec being the top producers. Canada is also the main producer of greenhouse tomatoes in North America. Other main countries of exports include Jamaica, Japan, China, and Taiwan. Given that they're frequently used in kitchen, the consumers expect to have tomatoes fresh all year round. Therefore, there is an intensive production to meet the increasing demand for fresh tomatoes. And so in order to overcome seasonal climatic constraints, they are transported from distant regions within other climate zones are produced around the year in heat in greenhouses. And that has an impact on greenhouse gas emissions. Other sources of gas emissions include farm equipment, food processing, packaging, transportation, refrigeration, waste management, and more. And while the carbon footprint of one tomato is relatively low compared to animal-based food, it is higher than other fruits like berries and bananas. However, there are ways we can make tomato production more sustainable. For example, we can buy non-GMO organic food to support farmers to meet the guidelines to produce safe food with a minimal toxin exposure and use of chemical pesticides. We can also contribute sustainability by buying local tomatoes, which reduce the emission of greenhouse gas. And lastly, growing plants at homes or in community gardens is the most environmentally sustainable way with zero carbon footprint. And there are actually not-for-profit organizations that not only encourage community gardening for sustainability, but also for food security. There's one pilot project based in Montreal called Gardens of Hope. that aims to improve food security in the Mohawks community by growing a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, including tomatoes. And there is another not-for-profit organization called One Tomato, which has the goal of having everyone participate in a food secure and sustainable community by beginning with the simple task of growing one tomato plant and eat or share the produce. So we'll move to the nutrition section. Tomatoes are mostly made up of water. The rest consists mostly of carbohydrates, including fiber. And unlike fat, protein, and sugars, fibers are not digested by the body nor absorbed. In other words, fibers go intact as they pass through the stomach, small intestines, and colons. And there are a lot of health benefits associated with fiber intake. It keeps your gut healthy by helping with the bowel movement. It keeps your heart healthy as it helps reducing cholesterol and also helps control the blood sugar levels. Other nutrients in tomatoes include potassium and vitamin C. Potassium is a mineral essential for the body. It helps regulate the volume of fluids in your body and the blood pressure. It also plays a role in sending neural signals. As for vitamin C, one of its many functions include helping with the immune system, wound healing, maintaining cartilage, and formation of collagen. Other components present in tomatoes are what we call antioxidants. They are naturally present in plants, and there are different types of antioxidants. Those mainly present in tomatoes are lycopene, lutein, and flavonol. What is exactly the role of antioxidants in your body? So they help protect our body cells against damages caused by free radicals. The free radicals are unstable chemicals that are detrimental for the cells and are responsible for aging and diseases. Free radicals can be generated, for example, with smoking and exposure to UV light, among others. And so the antioxidants reduce the actions of free radicals. And this is one of the many reasons why we encourage eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables to get the most benefits out of it. And a major one present in tomatoes is lycopene. Tomato is actually the major dietary source. It is the lycopene that gives this characteristic red color. And there have been studies showing the protective role of lycopene in humans against various degenerative diseases. It helps prevent heart disease and hardening of the arteries. And eating tomatoes also help reduce the incidence of cancer and macular degeneration. So tomatoes are popular food around the world. There are a lot of culinary dishes with tomatoes being the key ingredient. So for example, we got pasta tomato sauce, ratatouille, tomato and egg stir fry, and shakshuka, which consists of poached eggs cooked in tomato sauce. And there are many more dishes. I have here a recipe of a cultural dish from India, tomato rice, where tomatoes add a nice touch of tanginess to your rice. So for this recipe, you will need the following ingredients: 2 medium-sized tomatoes, 1 medium-sized onion, 2 cloves of garlic, a half tablespoon of grated ginger root. You can also use garlic and ginger paste. 1 cup of brown rice with 3 cups of water. You can also you can use any type of rice. The brown rice is preferred for its fiber content. A 3/4 cup of chickpeas for a source of plant-based protein. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. For spices, you can use 2 teaspoons of cumin seeds, ground cumin and ground coriander, 1 teaspoon each. 1 teaspoon of curry powder, turmeric for to give the golden color. 2 teaspoons of chili powder, paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, and cilantro leaves to garnish. Here's a little demo. So first, wash and rinse thoroughly the rice and set it aside for the moment. On a low-medium heat, add the olive oil in your pan, chopped onions, 2 tablespoons of cumin seeds, and the minced ginger and garlic. So mix up everything and cook for about 5 minutes until the onions become almost translucent. And after this, you can add the spices. So here you can play around with the spices. You can add other varieties for extra flavor. and also adjust the amount to your liking. If you don't like if it's too hot, you can reduce the amount of chili powder or completely omit it, or you can add 1 more teaspoon if you want more spiciness. Mix everything well before adding the tomatoes. So once tomatoes added, allow them to cook for about 3 minutes to really absorb the flavor of spices until they soften up and the juice is released. Then you can add the rice. Now mix well the rice with the tomato juice before adding water. And once the water added, you can cover it up, reduce the heat to low and bring it to a boil. Allow it to simmer for about half an hour. In the midway, you can add the chickpeas. If you're using dried chickpeas, make sure to soak them in the water overnight. Mix it well with the rice and allow it to cook with the rice. Once the liquid is absorbed, you can garnish it with cilantro leaves. And voila! There you have your tomato rice. It can be served on its own, or you can eat with vegetables and protein-rich food to have this balanced plate. And there it is. So this is an easy to make dish that is gluten and vegan free. It is great for a quick meal prep and lunch. This dish is a good source of fiber with the rice and chickpeas and tomatoes. Also a good source of plant-based protein and a good source of iron. The total cost of making this recipe is approximately $4 with the cost per portion 69 cents. But do keep in mind that the cost varies depending on the ingredients you use and where they are purchased from. So we've seen examples of dishes with tomatoes as ingredient, but there are so many uses of tomatoes in the kitchen. So you have tomato paste, sauce, tomato cream, tomato juice, stew, or just simply tomato as a whole in salads. So here are some additional resources for you. How to grow your tomatoes in your garden, which you can see on the Canadian Food Focus website. The Government Canada website has a whole page of food safety tips in purchasing, preparing, and serving tomatoes. And if you wish to know more on the nutrition content, you can find the information on the website of Les Aliments du Québec. And for more recipe ideas, you can see them on Canadian Living website or Ricardo. So thank you for listening. I hope this presentation has made you discover more about tomatoes and made you appreciate more the food and the wide use of it in the kitchen. Thank you.